Hey mate, how you going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's been a long time.
Hello. Yeah, so it's all going up there.
Well, it's warm and I love it. So
Yeah,
yeah, great. And heaps of gigs, really. That's probably the main thing, really.
yeah, that's good. So how long have
Like
you
I'm
been
doing
up
I moved up in 15,
there?
so 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, just it's gone like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, pretty much aside from COVID and like the first year I didn't really gig too much up here because I didn't know anybody. But
Yeah.
basically the rest of the time I've done at least 3 gigs a week up to like I've done nine in a
Mm,
week,
wow.
which is, fuck, the last time I never did 9 gigs in a week in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And even like at the height of Big Deal, we're doing like six.
Mm,
So,
unreal.
but that was band gigs and I didn't have to sing every song, which is a bonus. And now
Yeah.
it's like, that's a lot of singing.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, though. It's great you keep them busy, getting it all going. I mean, it looks like you've been looking on the YouTube and got heaps of things out there, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, it's all just kind of throwing shit at the wall and hope that something sticks kind of thing. And some songs connect and other songs kind of don't. It's just I just because I don't write for anybody else. I write for me
Mm,
with Anthony a lot of the time.
yeah.
But I'm not doing it to try and make a million fans. If I do and they connect with the song, then that's awesome. But I'm not. I don't go out of my way to write for the audience because I feel like you're just chasing your tail. There's a lot of artists that do that,
Mm,
and some of them just get on the end of something and they can get it, build a career out of it. But I've just always written from my heart, and whatever that is that comes out, that's what comes out. It just happens that like a lot of my influences as far as what I've listened to in the past will come out in that as well, obviously. So
yeah, yeah. Actually, that's probably a good place to start. What are your influences? What
I
influences
mean,
who you are?
I was just listening to some Kenny Burrell just then, but I mean, just so much stuff. I mean, everything from I've always loved pop music. I kind of grew up. My dad was a massive Buddy Holly fan, so like, and they're just like the quintessential 3 minute, well, 2.5 minute pop songs, really.
Yeah,
And so I've always had that kind of, always search for the hook is my first thing usually. But actually, the first thing for me is always just a guitar part. That's how I write, is just usually 99% of the time from a guitar part. But yeah, so Buddy Holly, and then I went through a real rock and roll phase where I listened to, everything that was 50s and 60s. And at the same time as listening to, whatever was popular on the radio. And then obviously, like In Excess were huge for me. I kind of find that I had like an album a summer. I don't
yeah,
know why, but like In Excess Kick in 89, I think, or 90 was like, oh, it must have been 89 or 88. That was my summer record. I'd probably listen to it 500 times, if not more.
mm,
And then it was Appetite. Appetite lasted for about 5 years.
yeah,
I think, I was listening to the other thing, like Skid Row's actually my favorite band, but I probably listened to Appetite, 20 times more than I listened to, Skid Row's first album.
yeah.
But, and then I went through a real jazz phase. So I bought a jazz box and went and had, some jazz lessons. And yeah, just, Telfalo, Kenny Burrell, those kind of cats. And I didn't listen to any mainstream music. Like I was listening to like, Incognito and like kind of acid jazzy bands, but I wasn't listening to any mainstream at all. And then in 98, I kind of, and also I was in 93, I bought Keith Urban's first album
Okay.
and loved it. All my friends hated it. They're like, that is garbage. What do you that listen to that? That's horrid. That is country. And I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
And that was kind of where I discovered I mean, obviously my dad listened to country, he loved, Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard and those kind of guys, but that was kind of dad's music. I never paid that much attention. I tried not to pay any attention to it. And so yeah, Keith was kind of the first country thing that I ever listened to that kind of, got me. And then, to be honest, I didn't listen to any other country until Faith Hill had a massive hit with, because I didn't like Shania. I thought it was just pop music. I didn't like it at all. I didn't because I was so into the jazz thing and I was so like country. Not, like I could listen to Keith because he still had all the guitar playing,
Yeah,
but anything else was just like Shania. Like I didn't, it wasn't until years later I came to kind of, really like there's a lot of guitar stuff going on in there. I just didn't really realize. And plus the versions that they would release to radio was so popped out, they'd take a lot of the guitar parts out of it. So it was just, there's a whole bunch of Dan Huff stuff on there, which is amazing, but you don't hear it because it's been taken out and it's just been, popified or whatever. And then, and then I joined a cover band and I was just and I joined a big cover band. So I couldn't kind of half-ass it. I had to go and learn all of the middle of the road, Matchbox 20, live, all of that kind of, I don't know, rock, pop, kind of, Blink 182. I had to go and learn all that stuff. Like I think I learned 60 songs in like 3 weeks, and my retention rate's not super good. So I remember standing on stage going, is the next part like, and I'd go to a different part of, I'd go to a chorus of a different song because I didn't know the songs well enough because I just hadn't listened to normal radio. And then it was just, and then like the Faith Hill thing happened for me. And then I started listening to country more regularly and other artists as well.
yeah,
And then by the time kind of I was in a rock band with some guys from Melbourne. Anthony was one of them, Anthony Emery, a couple of other guys. And we were writing kind of Foo Fighters meets Guns N' Roses type stuff. And I'd bring songs in, they'd be like, yeah, cool song. Can't use it though, it's too country. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I don't do country. What are you talking about? And then like 2009, I went, oh, bugger this. I'm just because I was in another rock band in Melbourne called Super Seed, which is like an alt rock band, which is really it was a really cool band actually. I'm kind of upset that it kind of fell apart because they had some really cool stuff, and they were getting airplay and on Triple J and that kind of stuff, which was PBS, which is pretty awesome. But that kind of fell apart, and so then I just went, I'll just go and do country.
yeah.
So I went and recorded an album. Did not know one person in the country scene, not one. I didn't know what I was going to do with this album, and I spent a lot of money on it. Recorded with Adrian Hannon, who did Taxi Ride stuff, Vanessa Amorosi stuff, like a really good producer,
Mm.
and came out. And I remember holding the album in my hand, going, "What the hell am I going to do with this thing now?" I didn't know. I didn't know how to release a song. I didn't know how to shoot a video. I didn't know anything. I just knew that I had this album, and luckily enough, I had uh, Lockie Davidson played fiddle on it, and he actually gave me my first gig. So the first support gig like the Brook Chivell band ever did was with with the Davidson brothers, which is a hard out bluegrass act,
Yeah.
which it was so weird. It's like we're standing there, strumming, playing our, kind of pop country stuff. And then they came out and went just hardcore bluegrass. I mean, they're amazing players. Like they're crazy, crazy good players.
Yeah.
And and then, from there, and Dave Moore played pedal steel on it. So I got some connections through that. And, everyone in the country scene's, pretty giving with, hey, you needed to contact this guy and he'll help you with distribution. And you need to contact this guy and this is how you get your songs on the radio and that kind of stuff, which is there is in the country scene, there's a real kind of there's a process to getting things done that's actually there. Like in the pop side of the world, like I just don't see that unless you get signed and it gets taken care of for you. Like, where do you get your stuff played? Whereas the country scene, there are commercial country radio stations that will play an indie artist. So I'm pretty lucky that way.
Yeah. And what I found also is that like listening to a lot of would you call your style like more country rock, you think?
Yeah, country pop rock, depending on the song, obviously. But I mean, obviously, I've got such a rock background that's always going to come out.
Yeah. But listening to that stuff, I found like a lot of the singers and who played guitar, amazing guitarists. Like you mentioned Keith Urban before. I've seen him in concert, a couple of times and just
Yeah,
incredible. People know, unless you go see them live, and like you're saying about with the records, they do cut a lot of that out. And
yeah,
no, by listening to your stuff, you can really hear, like, sometimes you've got those solos, you just go for it. It's great.
I mean, part of the other part of the reason I kind of went to country was because solo became such a dirty word in rock music. It
Yeah,
was like all you could do is some kind of octave motif, and that was it. It's like I didn't play guitar for 20 years to do that.
yeah,
Like I didn't learn all of this stuff to just go and play. Like I just didn't do that. So I was like, oh, country, because you got Brad Paisley. I mean, just shredding country stuff, and guys like Brent Mason, and those guys are just next level. The hard thing coming from like a rock background into the country scene is they all think major all the time,
yeah,
all the time. Like I've got mates that guitar players that I have come play with me, and we're playing over what I would ordinarily, the song might be an E blues, right? And they will automatically go major on it. And I'm like, how do you even, I don't even think that way. And they're playing like full double stop, runs and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't even know. But when I play, they're like, how do you do that? I'm like, that's what everybody does, isn't it?
yeah,
But yeah, it's just a very different minds, especially with the trad players like that have got all of that Alan Jackson and stuff under their fingers. Like those guys that play, all of the early Brent Mason solo stuff, they've got that. But when they come to try and play some kind of bluesy based, minor thing, it's not really their bag. They can
mm,
do it obviously because I mean, that's the first thing you teach a new student that's learning to play solos is that, but they don't have the necessarily the intricacies of it, and they don't do the necessarily that interesting stuff that in that style because they moved away pretty quickly and went and did their major thing.
yeah, yeah,
It's such a weird mindset
yeah. So
for
do you
me.
find, I know what you mean. Do you find though, like, with your style, it's like they just come through the different things of, like you said, playing rock and I guess, I mean, if you listen to it, yeah, there are a few blues influences in the solos as well.
Yeah, I find that, I mean, for me, when I'm writing solos, because usually the song, I mean, well, the song always comes first. And a lot of times I'll probably go too far with the solo. And then whoever's producing will say, yeah, that's a little bit too far. You don't need all of that going on in there. And I'll usually pull it back then. But a lot of the times I'll sing something. Like I find that if I just sit down and start playing, like I'm not one of those guys that can just improvise a solo first take, and I'm not Ingve, that's for sure. Like I'll sit down. I mean, does he really though? He
Yeah,
always says, "Oh yeah, I just improvised that." Like, did you really? I don't know. Maybe he did. I don't know. Like I don't have that mindset. But like I'll usually sing a melody, work out what that melody is, because a lot of times it will have something a little bit interesting in it that I wouldn't ordinarily play on guitar because I probably think more scale based. Whereas when I'm singing, I'm not thinking about that at all. I'm just thinking what fits over. And so I'll sing something, learn that, and then put in stuff around that. That's usually the way it kind of works for me.
yeah,
And whatever suits a song. I work with a producer, Jared Adlam up here, and he's a guitar player as well, a really good guitar player. And so he'll come up with ideas and go, "Oh, how about that lick?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that fit perfectly." So that happens a lot too, which is cool. Like I'm up until this until I moved here, it had never been that. It always just been me sitting in front of my computer at home, working at a solo. Usually I improvise for half an hour over something, go back, listen, and go, "Oh, that part was cool. That part was cool," and then kind of paste it together and then learn it as a unit kind of vibe. But yeah, working with another guitar player has been great because he'll go, "Oh, what about if you finish there instead of there?" Because a lot of times that's what I do. Like I'll be sitting there I'll listen to a new song and go, "Why'd you finish it there? That's weird. Like, why wouldn't you go there?"
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but talking about good solos, I know it's your last song you just released, "Put 'Em Up." The
Oh
solo,
yeah.
that's a great solo.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Gee, I can't even remember how that was done in the studio with Jared. I think I'd pretty much worked out what I was going to play before before I did. There's actually like depending on which version you listen to, there's a longer version as well with like with an outro solo on the end of it that we kind of cut off the single version because the radio don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only the guitar players have bothered listening to the outro thing. But yeah, that I mean, it's kind of there's a country act called Brothers Osborne, and the guitar player in that of those brothers is a monster. Like he's just a great guitar player, and that song I guess is kind of modeled after their kind of vibe. So I usually go when I go into the studio with a song, like always trying to have an idea of a few songs or a song that it's kind of I'm working towards production wise. So that was definitely a Brothers Osborne kind of vibe, and luckily he has heaps of solos. Like they've got a song called Shoot Me Straight, which goes for like 8.5 minutes, and probably 4.5 of that is guitar solo.
Unreal.
which,
I should
which
check
is
it out.
which is you should do. Like he's a monster player. He's a monster player. They've been out here a couple of times, and I saw him at CMC, and I'm just like, because all my mates are kind of raving about it. I'm like, oh, I just haven't got time to put another band in here. Like, and then I saw him like, oh, right, okay. So I went home and I bought all the albums on vinyl, and just yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. So that song, Put 'Em Up, is it going to be on an album to be released, or is that just a single?
It, it's for now it's a single. So the kind of release strategy, if I can say that I've got any strategy in anything I do, like at the moment, it's just so hard with albums. I mean, Spotify do kind of want you to have albums. They're pushing towards that. But the problem is if you put an album of songs on Spotify and then you release singles off that, like old school you would have done, you can't pitch the songs that are already released onto Spotify. You can't pitch them to playlists. So you kind of have to hold the album back so that you can pitch the new song that you put on to get on the playlist. Because realistically, that's where in the country scene at least, that's where the plays are. You know, like I hate using the word fans, but people that follow my career, um, you know, they'll make up a small percentage. But if you can get on one of the big playlists, you can get 100,000 streams in a week.
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas, my fans might make up two or three or 500 of those kind of things. So it's just, you really have to be kind of playlist orientated, which sucks because me, like everyone else kind of, our age, we want to release an album because that's a snapshot in time of where we were.
Yep.
But so what I'm doing is kind of releasing singles when the singles add up to, an album-ish, if I need to add a couple of tracks or whatever, then I'll do that and package it. And realistically, like CDs aren't a thing anymore. Like I've got way too many CDs in my garage right now that, then people can't play them in their cars anymore. Like that used to be the thing. Like people, because CD players disappeared out of homes a long time ago, except for musos, that like that stuff. But I'll probably release it on vinyl more than likely because there is a market for that. But just as far as actually releasing a compact disc of albums, it's kind of dead format. So I don't know. It's so difficult because you do, like, as an artist, you want to record an album, release an album. Like, we don't. I don't. I mean, I don't like to think, oh, this is just a single and here it goes. I like to think, yeah, here's my vision of 12 songs that fit in a package. And at the moment, it's like, I don't know. Is it? There's no vision here. It's just me releasing the next song kind of vibe. So. Yes, it will be on an album at some point. A lot of people, people that follow my career, they'll buy a CD that will never get played. They'll buy a CD, have me sign it, and they're buying it as a merch item. Like, I'd prefer they bought a T-shirt. Like, but I'm not a T-shirt salesman. I'm a musician. So it's just so hard. Like at the moment, like you're looking at 1 million Spotify streams equals about $4,000.
Yeah.
Once you take out, the percentage that your aggregator takes and paying your aggregator to put the song on all platforms in the first place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it's like, wow, this is not a lot of money. And I'm just, releasing for myself. And in the end, that's where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Like, sure, like if I could, get 1 billion streams, that'd be amazing. But I don't go into it thinking that. I just release, it's kind of for me now.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not about it's, and hopefully that comes across, like, as compared to the people that are releasing for, the fame of it or whatever, like, I just don't think, I'm just a normal dude. I don't think about it that way. I don't want, you know, if I got famous, I would hope that it wouldn't change. I hope that I'm, far enough along now that it wouldn't change me, because I see so many kids that go through that. It's like, oh wow, you're pretty different than you were when I met you before you were that famous thing.
No, exactly right. Yeah, I think our album just got up to just hit the $60 mark on the streaming platform over 2 years. How crazy is that?
It's so hard, and you're just like, wow, this album cost me X dollars,
No,
and I've got less than $100 back.
no.
Fantastic.
It's completely changed. Now, talking about, we've put them up, the film clip for that one. So where was that
Yeah.
done? Great film clip.
So that was shot, like, all the outdoor stuff was shot at Jacob's Well, which is, like, I live on the Gold Coast. I live right near Dreamworld, and about 10 minutes north is maybe 15 minutes north is all the cane fields. So my manager lives out there, and she said, "Oh, we should go here." And all the inside stuff was shot in Adam Brand's man cave.
Oh, really?
If people don't know who Adam Brand is, he's a very well-known Australian country artist. So he just happens to have a man cave with the stage set up and poker table and all that stuff. And he's actually in the clip at the end. So
Okay.
it was not. It was nice enough. I said to him, "Oh, any chance you'd do a cameo for me?" He goes, "Yeah. What do you want me to do?" And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, "I'll do this." So that whole setup at the end, that's all his idea.
Oh, wow. Unreal. But how about the police car? Is that an American car?
Yes, yeah. So because I live so close to Movie World as well, like, I've got my manager's got contacts so the guy that was driving that car is actually one of the stunt drivers at Movie World, and that's his personal car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's a lucky thing about being on the Gold Coast. There's so many, like, artistic people. I mean, so many artists here. There's so many country artists that have moved to the Gold Coast, because the country scene, it's hard to comprehend, as, like, because I'm from Melbourne, obviously. It's hard to comprehend, being from Melbourne or Sydney, that country is and has been a massive vibe up here the whole time I've lived here. So, like, literally, I did the cover scene in Melbourne for years and years and years, and the only country song I ever got requested ever in all those years was Gambler.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only one. You come up here, it's like, oh, I'll play the latest Luke Combs song, or play a Morgan Wallen song, or play a Keith Urban song. Like, I get requested for that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it was so, because I love that stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that. But, like, that was just, I was learning the songs in Melbourne just for myself. I wasn't learning them to ever be able to play them, at a gig, unless it was at, one of my gigs and I did it as a cover that I, added into my set. But yeah, most of the time in Melbourne, it was just like, they wanted nothing to do with country. And they'd always say, like, my friends say, "You do country?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "What, like Slim Dusty?" And I'm like, what kind of music do you like? And they'd be like, "Oh, I like pop music." I'm like, "So you like Boney M?" Big Boney M fan. They're like, "Who's that?" I'm like, "Same deal." Like, "Or you're a rock fan?" "Oh, so you're a big Buddy Holly fan, are you?" They're like, "No, I like Foo Fighters." I'm like, "Yeah, well, it's the same, like, it's the same deal. There's all this other country, and the amount of times, like, people listen to my album and go, 'I don't like country music, but I like that.' And I'm like, well, that's because you don't know what country music is, because that's country. You just don't know you just expecting it to be this thing from, the 70s or whatever. And and I don't think they even think that. I think they even think further back a lot of the time, because those guys love the Eagles and they love Cold Chisel. Cold Chisel is a country rock band. Pretty much. Like, you listen to a lot of their stuff's country based. So much of it, when you listen to it that year, you go, "Oh wow, Rising Sun. Yeah, that's a really fast country song. Yeah, cool." But when you're thinking it from, rock and roll ears, you're not thinking about that, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that the country, like, dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what. Even less. They might even be thinking, like John Williamson.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't help. You've got a lot of those guys are very, like, career saving centric. So, like, John Williamson will go out and bag new country, and he'll bag out artists that go overseas because he's trying to protect his little piece of the pie.
Yep.
The rest of us are trying to grow the pie rather than just, try and protect our little piece of it, because I don't have a piece. So, and luckily at the moment, like, country's such a big thing. Like, Luke Combs sold out in that. Like, I think it sold out in 5 minutes or something. And there was hundreds of people on, same as not that Taylor's country anymore, but Taylor Swift tickets were insane.
That was crazy. I did have one question from the outsource from
I'll bet it is. Here we go.
he said to ask you about your millions of pedals and combinations.
Yes. Yeah. There's 8 pedals just sitting, 9 pedals just sitting here on the table beside me. If you could see, like, I just bought an orange Rockaverb, and I've got this is my lounge room, by the way, but I live alone, so it doesn't matter. I can do whatever I want. There's no music room. It's music house. Yeah. But like, I'm always, kind of playing around with different pedals, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm pretty sure I've got that pedal somewhere in a box, and I'll just go and dig it out, kind of vibe. Or, I'm always trying to find something new that just kind of turns me on to, write something different. Because I was thinking about it before, and always, because I get some shtick from my mates about buying guitars all the time, but I always find that new guitars bring out new things in me, not only playing wise, but song wise. The amount of guitars that I've bought over the years, and within a day I've written a song that turned out to be like, something that I released, is bizarre. Like, so many of the songs that I've written have come out of me buying a guitar, and then I wrote a song the next day, kind of thing, that ended up being a thing, just because it gives you that little bit of inspiration, and you're just playing a little bit more or whatever. But yeah, as far as pedals go, I mean, I've got so many pedals, too many, probably too many. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not Mick and Dan style, like, walls covered in them or anything, but I've definitely got boxes of them that I occasionally go through and go, oh, I didn't even know I had that one.
So what's next for you? What's coming up?
So I just had another song finished mastering yesterday, actually. Okay. And that's going to come out on August 14. So it's the song's called Bad Guy. My last single, Blue Eyes, I'm actually filming the film clip for both Blue Eyes and Bad Guy on the same day, because I just couldn't get everything that I wanted together to shoot the film clip for Blue Eyes. How I'm going to release those, I don't know, because there is a, like, CMT on Foxtel still plays. I mean, they play a lot of Aussie content, which is great, but I can't release 2 film clips to them at the same time, obviously, because it's going to stymie one or the other. So I'm going to have to work out some way to put those to the TV. But a lot of times, like, actually, the very next thing that's going to come out is I've recorded a cover of, I mean, none of my fans are probably going to watch this, so, because I'm going to try and keep it secret from them for a while, but I just recorded like a little bit country. Like, it's, anyone that knows the song isn't going, well, he screwed that up by making it country, but I've recorded a cover of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Oh, yeah. I just love that. Yeah, because I love that. So I just thought, and it just kind of takes the pressure off, because you need to be releasing content often is the whole vibe now, because we're all just loaded. So, we just keep putting out content. But, the algorithm kind of favors artists that are releasing content more often. So, that's the very next thing that's going to go out. That'll probably go out next week or so. So, but I haven't uploaded it yet. It's not going to be pitched to any playlists or anything like that. It's just more, this is for the people that follow me kind of vibe, or anyone that happens to stumble on it. But I've shot the video clip by myself, and all that kind of stuff, just to keep the price down as much as possible. And it's a lot bigger sounding than the original, because it's all real instruments, and there's like, I don't know, there's a couple of parts in it that are the same as the original. I mean, but it's me doing different versions, because I think that whole song's basically done on synth, aside from the guitar part, obviously. So, and I actually learned that is a weird guitar solo.
That's it.
That it is under the fingers. It's a really weird guitar. It's not how like I know how you play as well. Just go and have a listen to it and learn. Like it's not hard to learn necessarily, but it's just you're just going. It's a little bit like Tourette'sy. It's like what? It's so weird. It's weird, but it suits the song perfectly. And a lot of the times I'm like, I guess coming from cover band land, it's a little bit sacrilegious if it's a iconic solo to then just for me to do my thing over the top of it. I'm like, that solo is done for. It's like when you see somebody play "Take Me Back" and they don't play that solo.
Yeah,
It's like that solo is perfect, mate. Like Chet's a god. That is the perfect solo for that song. Just play the solo.
yeah,
Even if it's just your version of that solo that's pretty close, just play that. You don't need to. You're not reinventing the wheel when you play "Take Me Back" or whatever.
no, that's what I mean. Yeah, oh, that's cool. I'll look forward to hearing that one then next week.
Probably next week. I'll probably upload it today. I'm still in the throes of Emery gave me some feedback on the film clip, which I'm probably going to change because I generally, not always, like Anthony and I have a relationship where I run things past him. It's just like, here's my thing. What do you think? He'll usually have a couple of opinions. Sometimes I'll listen, sometimes I won't. And we're lucky enough to have that kind of relationship. Even when we write, like we're so brutal, but we know it's done. And Emery's brutal anyway. But like like we'll sit in the room and he'll say to me like, "Can you actually? Do you think you could stand on stage and sing that without laughing? Like that's terrible." And we'll just be like, "Nah, that's crap. That's shit line. Shit." Like we can say that to each other. And every other time I do a write with other people that I'm not in that kind of relationship with, it's so hard because it's like, that's a really shit line, but how do I talk you out of it?
Yeah,
Like, when Anthony and I write together, he'll often just come out with, lyrics, a page of lyrics, no melodic ideas or anything. He kind of leaves that to me, and same with the music stuff. But I'll go through and edit what I like out of it, or change lines, put different lines together, and that kind of vibe. Because unless I'm super inspired, actually writing lyrics for me is really hard work, really, really hard work. So if I'm just not one of those, sit down and work on a lyric for 4 days kind of vibe. And he can do that. I'm not that guy. I'm just like, if it doesn't come straight out, I need to give it a rest, because struggling with lyrics is, I'd rather be playing guitar riffs.
yeah. I'm exactly the same.
It's just it's so painful. It's so painful. But and every song I write, 99.9% of the songs that I write start out with a guitar riff of some description. Like I've always been that guy, just sitting on the couch and noodling. And to be honest, like a lot of times I get asked about COVID and how it was, and as far as earning money, it was obviously devastating. But I find I actually played way more, because like I was doing 5 gigs a week playing acoustic guitar. The last thing I wanted to do was come home and play guitar.
Yeah.
But when COVID hit, it was like I had nothing else to do. So literally I was just sitting on the couch playing electric, going, oh, because I kind of thought that I hadn't written a song in, I don't know, I'd written one song that I recorded in 5 years. Like it had been a long time in between writing a finished song.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, like I actually had a back injury at the same time from work. So I couldn't work. I was sitting on the couch watching behind the album documentaries and playing guitar. And I'm like, oh, that's a cool riff. I wonder if it went like this. And then that would become something that I wrote. So I actually ended up writing a 70s rock album, which is almost finished as well. I'm going to release that under a completely different name, because it would confuse Brook Chivell fans to be like, whoa, what's this all about? But it's like, just because I was watching, and the bands that I'd heard the name of, but never really, like Grand Funk Railroad, never heard a song in my whole life, but I knew the name of the band.
Yeah.
And I went and watched a documentary on them. I'm like, wow, Who knew? They were like, they sold out Shea Stadium faster than the Beatles did. Like they were enormous in the 70s, but they've kind of disappeared over the course of time. But they had some amazing songs,
Mm.
you know, like Chicago and, you know, all a Journey and all those 70s bands that kind of maybe one song stayed with us.
Yep.
And, you know, like, but a lot of their stuff's just kind of been lost for, you know, in time. But so many amazing songs,
Yeah.
all originals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, very
In
cool.
the style of.
Yeah.
Like if you actually listen to the songs, it's like, oh, I can tell, I can hear the influences on this one. Like there's a song that's very, very Pink Floyd influenced.
Okay.
But at the same, like it's funny when we're recording it on the day, the bass player's like, wow, this is so Led Zeppelin. Hey, I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, man, listen to that bit. And I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, I guess it is.
Yeah.
But you know, because I mean, it's no, I guess it's the same as kind of Wolf Mother. You know, they're basically Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and a little bit of Black Sabbath, kind of without the guitar solos.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously mine is full of guitar solos. But you know, it's
cool.
you just take those influences and smash them together and see what comes out. And it's so easy to get, you know, when you're listening to great music, it's so inspirational. When you're listening to, you know, I mean, I barely listen to the radio because it's just, I mean, I listen to country radio a lot, but I don't listen to mainstream radio except at, you know, my day job, though. But usually it's Triple M 80s.
Yeah.
The music that we listened to in the 70s and 80s and even in the 90s, like there was a lot of thinking to be done. Like you could listen to it on a purely, you know, fan basis, listener wise.
Yep.
But if you were a muso, you could actually listen to it and go, there's some complicated stuff going on here. Like they've got they've got key changes hidden in there or time changes hidden in there. Like I used to love going to metal concerts and, you know, they'd play a song in 7/8 and you'd see all the guys headbanging. When the time changed, it took me a minute to kind of work out if I just kept headbanging at the same rate, it would catch up. But you know, like though people didn't even think about that. Like the casual listener wasn't going, "Oh, this song's in 7/8." They're just going, "Oh, this is a cool feel." You know what I mean? Or if you listen to a lot of, you know, like 70s music that was still mainstream, but still very like people were trying stuff like, how do we make this different? How do we make it kind of more interesting? But it was all hidden behind the veil of this is pop music. Now pop music is, you know, a 1-5-6-4 progression with a melody sang over the top, some kind of lick, and includes country as well. A lot of the times I'll go into a writing session now and go, we're not writing a 1-5-6-4 song. Refuse. I'm just not doing that anymore because it's boring. I can't listen to it. And that's how you get, you know, Ed Sheeran ends up in court because he's writing over 1-5-6-4 progression. Well, there's only, and it's funny because there's, you know, people go there, well, there's only 12 notes. I'm like, yeah, there's 12 notes. 5 of them sound good. And out of those 5, like there's only 3 that you want to be hitting often. So you can hit the root and the third, and they're the ones you want to really stay around. And everything else is just getting to the root and the third.
Yeah.
So that only leaves a specific number of notes. At some point, you're going to write something that sounds the same as somebody else, even without having heard it, you know?
Yep.
And the amount of times I've written a song and gone, oh, wow, that's really close to, after I've written it, or, you know, I hear it later on and go, I've never even heard that song, but gee, it's pretty close. I mean, not that, you know, and the other thing is, you know, if I release a song, it's not affecting Madonna.
Yeah.
You know, if I wrote a song that was exactly the same as a Madonna song, she's not chasing me. Like she's not chasing me for my $7. You know what I mean? She's chasing Ed Sheeran or whatever. And it, you know, and that's really the way it goes. Like all those guys that suit Ed Sheeran because he's a megastar and he is making that kind of money. And I'm glad that he stood up and went, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. I mean, if they have gone out of their way to rip off something, that's a different kettle of fish. You know, like the Robin Thicke thing. Like he admitted, oh yeah, that was an inspiration. Yeah. That's different. That's a different kettle of fish than you wrote a song and it just happens to sound a little bit like that other thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I didn't even show you any of my pedals
No,
or
that's
my
all right.
guitar or the one that I built.
Oh, that's what you built, is it?
Yeah, from scratch. This was 4 chunks of wood.
Wow. Oh, look at that.
So yeah, it's and my design, it's kind of like a Novo-ish, but not really. It's funny now I see not mainstream guitar designs occasionally and go, that's kind of similar to mine, but
Mm.
not. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, obviously reverse headstock because that. But yeah, I built it. I've got two. I've got another one as well. Just got humbuckers and a wraparound bridge instead of that one's got the mastery tailpiece on it. So but yeah, I just love it. Everything to do with guitar, I'm just so
Yeah.
besotted, and it's like can I pay my rent this week? Well, maybe, but there's a guitar that I really want. Actually, that happened this week because I just bought this.
Hmm.
It's a original 50s. I mean, original 50s,
Yeah.
like the line that they brought out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I bought it 3 weeks ago, and I just because of the fat neck thing, because I've got a EJ Strat as well, and the neck's just not quite big enough. So I'm actually selling the EJ, and I'm gonna keep this.
Okay.
But yeah, it's so nice. And then I went, oh, rent. Yeah, that's right. Oops. Because you used to use a red Strat with a black pick guard, was it?
They're custom made. I had
Yes.
when I played with you probably all those years ago at the
Yeah.
Spring Hotel.
Yeah. 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 Man, that was fun. I was thinking about that before, going, I barely play guitar on those gigs. That was a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
a, it's such a different vibe. Like going from and even shooting film clips, I find really difficult if I haven't got a guitar in my hand.
Yeah.
And that usually whoever's shooting the video be like, yeah, you need to move. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. And because I haven't even got a mic, I'm just miming to the camera. So my ex she's like, she's got all the stuff, and it's like, that looks amazing. I stand there like, but as soon as they put a guitar in my hands, even if I'm just holding it, not necessarily even strumming it,
Yeah.
I just look so much more natural because you can do all of the rock moves that you've been doing for the last,
Yeah.
35 years or whatever.
That's
But
right.
when it's just you with no guitar going,
Yeah.
this is scary. I don't know what, but and doing those gigs with you, and I've done a few gigs over the years, I guess, where I didn't play guitar. It was great because it gives you that little bit of, okay, I have to not just stand there. I'm not tied to the mic stand now. And like in my original shows now, I don't always play guitar. I have another guitar player. So, which is great because it means that, songs where, like I do a cover of Walking in Memphis, which I'm going to release
Oh, yeah.
down the track as well. And obviously it's so keys based.
Yeah.
It's like, don't even like, you definitely don't need two guitar players on it. So
Yeah.
it just means I can put it down and kind of work the crowd a bit as opposed to be tied to the mic stand all the time.
Yeah.
It's good fun. It's so different though. It's like I just look at guys like, Tim Rizzoli, because obviously he was a singer and big deal when I was doing it. And I just look at those guys with so much respect. It's like, man, to work a crowd with no freaking guitar in your hand and to actually have to work the crowd, because it's the beauty of the guitar. I'm tied here. I can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But as soon as you take that off, it's like, wow, I need to do something now. Otherwise, it's going to look really crap. It's just just music is in such a different place now than it was.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's not like, I mean, you and I obviously are both obsessed with music as kids. And I just don't know that there's that many kids that aren't going to be a musician that are that infatuated with music as we kind of were. Like, it was my life. I played golf. I listened to music. They were the two things I did when I was, 13, because I
Yeah.
didn't start playing guitar until I was 17.
Mm.
But if I could have, I would have started way earlier. I just didn't have any avenue for that to happen.
Yeah.
But ever since I was a little kid, music was like everything. My walls were covered with music posters.
Oh yeah,
my whole life, pretty much.
yeah,
I mean, anyone that walked into my room were like, "Guy's got a rock star fetish going on," because it was, you know, Axel and Sebastian Bach and, you know, Joe Satriani and all that stuff. And I just don't know that kids do that anymore. I mean,
I don't think so.
I had a mate staying with me. He was a guitar lecturer from Whopper,
Okay.
and he stayed with me for 3 weeks. And man, we just nerded out on guitar every night. Like every night, we'd be just nerding out on like something. It was either a pedal or a guitar or a whatever. And we'd always sending each other, "Oh, this is on. Have a look at Marketplace." That's how I ended up with this gold Strat, because of
Okay.
Marketplace. And he ended up buying a Tom Anderson. Uh, it's like a Stratty Telly thing. It's like Strat configuration, but the shape of the guitar is like a Telly. Beautiful guitar. I mean, cost him a fortune, but because Tom Anderson's not cheap. And we'd be talking, you know, because he knows all the theory, like all the theory. Because I don't really play changes, like I don't play the changes mentally. Like I'm not thinking that way. Like I am playing the changes because I'm landing on different notes,
Hmm.
just doing it without thinking about it. Like I'm not thinking, okay, I'm moving from this scale to this scale to this scale. I just don't think that way, and I want to be able to.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time working on that, and you know, him showing me, and I knew how the modes worked and what the modes were, but I just never used that shit because like I just don't think about
Yeah.
playing music that way. And if I am playing in a mode, it's because I sang the solo and learned whatever that was, and it just happens to be in a different mode than standard. But like we spent, like it was literally 3 weeks of just guitar heaven. It'd just be like, if we had one more guitar player here, this could turn into some kind of never-ending black hole of guitar, and we'd never be able to emerge from it. It was so good. It was so good. Life would cease to exist.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This is the first guitar thing that I've ever done.
Oh, is
Everything's
it?
always, yeah, everything else is always like, oh, and how did you write that song? And what was your inspiration for that? And blah. It's so nice to just be able to go, guitars,
Yeah.
guitars. It's all about guitars.
That's it.
All right, bro.
All right, no worries. Thanks again for
All
this.
right. No worries. Take it easy. I'll
Bye.
talk to you later. Catch you, mate.